It's time. It's time. It's time once again. Hold on to your hats, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and all the ships at sea. It's time to spin the wheel of irrelevance. Yay! Today's topic is the ever problematic Jeremy Crawford and what is D&D canon. Now, there seems to be some confusion between what is 5th edition canon and what is 5th edition official. Remember about a year ago when Crawford made that whole nothing before 2014 canon thing, and then a few months later they talked about how 5th edition going forward was going to be world agnostic, and 2024 D&D is going to be world agnostic, and that there's not going to be a core world timeline. Then, of course, they went back and said, oh, no, actually, we do have a 5-year plan, and there's going to be a year-long story to explain the changes between 2014 and 2024. So to remind you guys what we're talking about here, about a year ago, Jeremy Crawford was rolled out of whatever vat they keep him in, and he said, nothing before 2014 is canon as far as D&D is concerned. 4th edition, not canon, not official, never happened. 3rd edition, not canon, not official, never happened. Third-party content OGL that was made for 3rd edition, not canon, not official, never happened. The third-party OGL product that was made for 4th edition, not canon, not official, never happened. D&D starts 2014 with 5th edition. That is what's canon. Anything after 2014, according to canon, according to Crawford, was canon. Everything before 2014, including your game, that if you've been running a game before 2014, wasn't canon, didn't exist, never happened. This got Crawford a lot of negative responses, including 5e people who were like, what, but I'm using, but, well, a few days later, Chris Perkins was rolled out, whatever vat they keep him in, to clarify Wizards of the Coast's official stance regarding canon versus official. So, canon, strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. That's canon. All right, that is set in stone. That's official. That exists across the entire play. All right, so that's canon. Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, DM's Guide, canon, set in stone. That is, from there gestates anything else that might be associated with 50, but the canon is in those 3 books. Anything else is a official or unofficial. But as regards to the story of a 5e campaign, what is canon, what isn't canon to that 5e campaign, there's no way to tell because everybody's 5e game is different. So what happens in your game is canon to your game, but what happens in that game is canon to that game, and what happens to the other game is canon to the other game. And if you choose to use third-party product in your game that is 5e, that is canon to your game. As far as Wizards of the Coast is concerned, there is official third-party content and official 5e content and unofficial. The official 5e storyline of, D&D is anything that they made from the end of 2014 till the end of 2023. This gets more confusing because of the reset in 2024. We'll talk about that in a moment. All right. So Wizards of the Coast makes, I don't know, my favorite, Tomb of Annihilation, Storm King's Thunder, Mines of Feldelvin. Storm King's Thunder, Tomb of Annihilation, Mines of Feldelvin are official Wizards of the Coast product. They are somewhere along the official 5e timeline. But how those resolved is not official, because when you ran Storm King's Thunder, your ending might be completely different than the way I ran Storm King's Thunder and my ending. So, and you also got to remember that official modules are written from the point of view as if everything happened the way it's written out. All right. So, and sort of kind of, they're all written as if the bad guys win, and they're written from the point of view of everything happens in this order or in whatever order you have them happen, because we know nothing ever happens in order the way it's supposed to in a game, but it's written in a certain order. Certain series of events will happen. That's already been pre-written, preordained. That's the official series of events. And it has a very official ending. And it's kind of written from the point of view that the bad guys won. In fact, there is a official third-party product called the Worst Forgotten Realms Timeline that is written from the point of view as if the bad guys won every origin. That product was made. It was put on the DM's Guild. Anything that put on the DM's Guild is considered official by Wizards of the Coast, which meant that campaign was official. But it wasn't canon, because if it was canon, well, then the Sarasek won at the end of Tomb of Annihilation. And if a Sarasek won at the end of Tomb of Annihilation, then anything written after Tomb of Annihilation would be that, oh, well, we can't play that because those guys are dead. Yo, you can't go to Elminster. He's dead. Because the ending is canon. So no, official and canon are different. Again, official. Mines of Feldelvin is an official 5th edition product. And in the official 5th edition timeline, it happened. But the ending, well, what happened in your game might be completely different than happened in that game. When Jeremy Crawford ran it, the ending might have been different than when Perkins ran it, than when I ran it, when that guy over there ran it, when she ran it, when some guy in New York ran it, when some guy in Japan ran it. They all run it differently, which means the ending is different, which means the canon ending is canon to your game. So that is what Crawford meant in regards to canon versus official. Anything put out after 2014 for 5th edition is official if it comes from Wizards of the Coast, or if it comes from a third-party Wizards of the Coast affiliate like GM's Guild, as opposed to, say, this thing, or this thing, or this thing. Well, these are all 5th edition adventures, but they are not official 5th edition product. Amazing Adventures 5e isn't even fantasy. All right. So these are unofficial third-party 5e product. They still use the 5e engine, but they're not official. On the other hand, this was official. Tal'Dorei was an official 5e setting, but now it's not, because Wizards of the Coast lost the copyright, and now it's being reprinted through a separate company, which means Tal'Dorei is no longer an official 5e campaign setting, but it uses 5e rules, which are canon, like Strength, Dex, Con, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. This is a 5th edition adventure. It's a fantasy adventure. I could use this in my 5th edition game. It would be canon in my 5th edition game, but it would not be an official 5th edition product. On the other hand, if I bought something from, say, I don't know, the DM's Guild, which is an official third-party 5e retailer, then it would be official. Wizards of the Coast acknowledges that it exists. All right, we confused, more confused, less confused? It's going to get worse. Take a breath, take a sip. Look outside and see how gorgeous it is. Right? Okay, so let's just a quick reminder. Anything produced by anybody before 2014, as far as Wizards of the Coast is concerned, including their own product, does not exist. 3rd edition, 4th edition, never happened, doesn't exist. Even if you're playing it right now, as far as Wizards of the Coast is concerned, it's not official, it's not canon, it doesn't exist. 2, if it was printed by Wizards of the Coast between 2014 and the end of this year, it is an official 5th edition product. But the only 5th edition canon are the stat blocks and the player's handbook, DM's guide, monster manual. That's it. That's all that's canon to 5e. Anything else is up for grabs. If you ran it, it's a canon to your game. If you didn't run it, it's not canon to your game. If the bad guys won at the end of Tomb of Annihilation, that's canon to your game. If they didn't win, that's also canon. So there's no 5e canon other than the core mechanics. there are 5e official. Right up until January 1st, 2024. Then everything changes. So completely ignore everything I just said, because going forward, the system agnostic 5th edition setting will have no official setting. It will have adventures. Some of those adventures might take place in the Forgotten Realms, but as far as the latest words that have come out of Crawford's mouth, there will be no canon. System agnostic. Now, how are they going to explain this sudden change? Because we know there's going to be a lot of changes to the 5e rules. Crawford himself said, yes, you're going to have to buy the new books, even though it's not a new edition. And there's tons of changes, but it's not a new edition. It's 5e 2024. Okay. But you still have to buy all three, at least have to buy the Player's Handbook going forward. So there's going to be this year-long Vecna thing happening in 2024 that's going to explain, much the same way the Time of Troubles did, any changes, any rewrites, any official changes to the timeline or whatever, or spell changes, or why Bigby is now a gnome and not a human, even though his stat block still says human. Why anything Ed is saying about the Forgotten Realms doesn't count. Everything before 2024 and everything after 2024, completely different. Crawford said so. Crawford said so. There's 5e 2014 and there's 5e 2024. So everything between 2014 and January 1st, 2024, that's one whole 5e universe. But everything after 2024, this is official from Wizards of the Coast, completely separate, completely new timeline, which is why they're having this year-long Vecna event, which will supposedly explain. So everything we just said about canon versus official versus setting agnostic, ignore it, because it's all going to change January 1st, 2024. Anything before January 1st, 2024 will no longer be canon. What does that mean? Who knows? We do know for a fact, no ifs, ands, or buts, that there is a 5-year timeline. This is clear. This is set in stone. Wizards of the Coast, Crawford and Perkins have 5 years. They have said so themselves, so don't tell me I'm BSing. This is from Crawford. This is from Perkins. This is written in stone on the Hasbro calendar, as I keep telling you guys. June 2027, Dungeons & Dragons 6X. So between January 1st, 2024 and June 2027, Crawford and Company have 5 years. 5 years. So whatever stories they're going to be telling, whatever the official stories, the official new system agnostic, setting agnostic story is going to be fit in those 5 years, and it's going to somehow, at least for the first year, involve Vecna. What happens at the end of that 5 years? What happens in June 2027 with Dungeons & Dragons 6X? Well, sadly, boys and girls, and again, you don't have to believe me, this is set in stone, Hasbro has told Wizards of the Coast it needs to make X amount of money every year for the next 5 years, or else. $1 billion. Okay, so between Magic and D&D sales, specifically D&D sales, $1 billion. So we probably expect that Magic is going to kick out a couple $100 million, if not $1 billion a year, despite everything. Maybe not, because we know Wizards of the Coast has been shepherding Magic the Gathering almost worse than they've been shepherding Dungeons & Dragons. Remember the whole Pinkerton thing? But D&D, $1 billion a year. That includes toys, games, action figures, dice, the stupid movie, the upcoming television show. If they've got 5 years to make $1 billion every year, they've already blown it for 2023. Things are not looking good financially for 2024, but who knows? They could pull a Hail Mary, assuming they get enough popularity for Dungeons & Dragons 2024. All right. So what's going to happen at the end of this 5-year calendar? Don't know. I have a feeling it's not going to be good. Remember, they're looking to replace Crawford. That job is still open. And we know, remember Kyle Brink can't leave the industry fast enough. All the people who work at Wizards of the Coast can't leave the industry fast enough. Jeremy Crawford, looking to fill your job. About 30 other people's jobs are still up for grabs to be replaced at Wizards. So, yeah, is Hasbro going to sell D&D in 2027? I'm not going to say they are. I'm not going to say they're not. I know they're considering it. There's a reason why this deadline has been placed on them. But in closing, because we've already talked about this for 15 minutes, anything before 2014 doesn't exist. Never happened. Sorry if you've been playing in the same games since 2008. Never happened. If you're still playing 3rd edition, doesn't count. Never happened. 2014 to 2024, that's one whole chunk. Anything printed by Wizards of the Coast or DM's Guild is official 5e content. But the only 5e content that is canon, according to Jeremy Crawford, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, Player's Handbook. What about Tasha's? Well, Tasha's is official, but it's not canon. You can choose not to use Tasha's. You are encouraged to use it. D&D Beyond is now programmed that you are encouraged to use the options from Tasha's, but you don't have to. If you look at the D&D Beyond, you can click Tasha's off. Same with Xanthars, same with all the other source books. Those are official, but they're not canon. You don't have to use Xanthars. You don't have to use Tasha's. You are being encouraged to the point of basically shamed into using them. You don't have to use them. The only canon books that are 5th edition canon, Monster Manuals, Player's Handbook, DM's Guide. Everything else is official, but it's not canon. Otherwise, the Worst Forgotten Realms Timelines Adventure Module Series would be canon. And in my mind, it is. But, everything after 2024 will be all new, official, and canon. And everything before 2024 is a completely separate, because Crawford said 2014 to 2024 is one 5e. 2024 to 2027 is the second 5e. There's his words, not mine. I'm not making this up. There's Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 2014, and there's Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 2024. They are separate. That is why we're making 3 new books, but oh no, they're not a new edition. Yes, it is, Jeremy. You literally said they are a new edition. You can call it whatever you want, but it's a new edition. 2014 to 2024 is one edition. 2024 to 2027 is the second edition. You said so yourself. I do not make this shit up. I know you guys think I do. It's there. It's in print. So hopefully I've either eliminated any confusion you have regarding the canon / official / setting agnostic nonsense, or I've made it worse. Either way, I've done my job, and I certainly hope that you can do your job by taking a moment to subscribe to the OG GM Adventures. Help me hit 2,000 subs by the end of the year, and we'll do something crazy and give some shit away. I've got some games piling up I need to give away, so be the 2,000 sub and win some shit. Till next time, I'm the OG GM. I hope you appreciate this content. If you do, let me know. If you never want to hear me talk about Wizards of the Coast or Jeremy Crawford ever again, too bad, because God love Wizards of the Coast. I'd be out of a job if they did not exist. See you tomorrow.